What's up, y'all? What is up, y'all? Come on in. What's up, Kanema? How you doing, Kanema? How you doing? Blessings, blessings, blessings. We're gonna let the room fill up just a little bit. Listen, y'all, I'm tired. I'm tired. I literally was just about to wind down and got that pull that I needed to come back live, man. What type of Monday have y'all been having today? Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to take my shoes off. What kind of Monday? What type of Monday have y'all been having? Go ahead and type it in on the screen and let me know. You okay? Feeling happy? Okay, listen, happy as I'm doing good. I'm woe out. Listen, y'all, Apostle T is woe out. I'm good though. I'm at peace. I pray that y'all are at peace. I pray that you guys are at a place where you are at peace, where you're at a place where you are in full faith concerning whatever it is that you are believing God for. Hold on one second. And so ignoring the negative. Listen, that's all you can do. Come on. That's all you can do. One thing I've learned about life too, Kanema, is honestly, that there's always the enemy is always going to be doing something, right? Somebody told me today, starve your distractions and feed your focus. And it made so much sense to me because the enemy is relentless. He never gives up. And so on our journeys of life, that's really what we have to learn to do, is to ignore, turn a blind eye, no matter what the enemy is doing, turn a blind eye to the enemy and just keep moving forward. What's up, Sabrina? How you doing? How you doing? What type of Monday have you had? And so, I pray that that helps you, because it helped me just get to a place where I could, stay focused. We don't have control over what the enemy does, but what we do have control over is how we allow, what the enemy does to affect us, if that makes sense. Right after I said what God said, you had to listen. Honestly, Kanema, a lot of times I'm gonna just flow a little bit. And yes, y'all, I'm drinking coffee. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. I'm drinking coffee at almost 9 o'clock p.m. Don't judge me. Hey, Miss Allen. But what I was gonna say, Kanema, and I believe that this may be helpful too. Like when I was in my wilderness, when I was in my wilderness, and even there have been some aspects now, like, I would hear God say something. And, I was in a season where I really needed to see God move, in a place where I really needed to just see God move. And a lot of times, I would receive what God was saying, and I would be good. I would be happy. But, how many people know that, when God speaks a word over our lives, that the enemy always comes, especially when he plants seeds of hope, seeds of faith. The enemy always comes back and tries to test us to see, do you really believe, right? And so for a lot of them, it was frustrating going through that in the wilderness, believing God to get, to get me out of that season for living arrangements. And every single time I would be on Periscope, because Periscope was popping at the time, and I used to watch, I was doing what many of you guys do. I was trying to stay afloat, which is why I got on, the broadcast of the people that I did. I tried to be on every broadcast because I needed the encouragement. It was a rough season. And, it's like I would get to a point where the word was right on time, and it'll be like literally sometimes right after the broadcast, the enemy would come for that word, and it would really test my faith, and it used to make me so mad. It used to make me confused because I hadn't grasped that concept that when I receive something by faith, that my belief is what is literally my belief that God has already done it. It literally brings on the attacks of the enemy. And so the enemy he just does his job. And maybe somebody else needed to hear that. The enemy just does his job at coming for what we receive by faith, or even the things that we speak by faith. Because some days it would be like the more and more I decreed and declared what God had promised me, it's like it drew more warfare. And that's when I would have, for a lot of those times, that's when I would have those screaming matches with God. Like I would be so angry with God because I'm like, God, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. No child of God should have to be. I used to tell God that. I'm so ashamed. I'm not bound to that shame. But y'all get what I'm saying? Just be like, no child of God should have to go through this or live like this. I would plead my case with God. But I didn't know that at the time God was, he was strengthening my faith. He was really getting to the root of, do you really believe? Because honestly, y'all, it's real easy. This must have been why God wanted me here. It's real easy to tell God you believe him when everything that your natural eyes see lines up with what God said. God says, I need to say that again. It's real easy to say, God, I believe you're going to do it when everything that you see with your natural eyes lines up to what God said. But how many people know that faith is tested during the opposition? Faith is tested when the enemy comes for that seed. And that's real. That's real. And so I pray that, you get something from that. And honestly, Kanima, you just need to just truly buckle down. You know, whoever else needs this, never stop decreeing what God has spoken. A lot of times, as I grew, the more and more the enemy attacked me, the more and more like I decreed and declared. I got to a point where I stopped caring. I'm like, one of us gonna give out, and it's not gonna be me. So you can attack me all you want, but I'm gonna continue. There have even been moments like in the previous seasons when I was living at this apartment, right? When I would be like, before God elevated me, when I would get to a point where the time for rent would come, and the enemy whispering those lies, circumstances, different things telling me your rent ain't gonna be paid, and da 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 this, da 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 this, y'all. I would like literally I kept decreeing and declaring, right? And that's when I started asking myself the question, I allowed the Holy Spirit to ask me this question: what does faith look like? And so, I didn't just, decree and declare when the enemy was attacking me, especially when it was rough, but like I backed it up by like movement, right? Even back to like when Bella was, facing that spirit of infirmity. Like, of course I was sad, right? But I didn't, realize until now that I was still like believing God, not just to heal her and bring her home, but at the same time, I was prepared. Y'all, I went and got a whole, I went and got dog bed, dog toys. I went and got all that stuff. And it was a declaration of my faith. And so to you, whoever needs this, I would simply ask you, I would ask you on tonight, what does faith look like? How can you back up your declarations with action? How can you back up your declarations with action, right? Because one thing that I found is that if I'm moving like it's done, my mindset is gonna follow. Y'all ain't talking back to me. If I'm moving like I trust what God has told me, if I'm moving like it's done, my mind blessings to you, Visha. I'm gonna say this again. If I am moving, like acting, like I believe God, like I believe what He spoke, like I believe He gonna do whatever it is that He said, my mind has no choice to follow. It makes my mind, which is the enemy's playground. It makes my mind not easily able to be penetrated because I'm feeding my faith by my actions, right? I'm feeding my faith with my actions. And honestly, there are some of y'all that are believing God for things. And they be feeling like it ain't gonna happen, or what you see is the exact opposite of like what you're believing God for. My question to you is, how can you how can you feed your faith on tonight? Some of y'all are believing God for cars and you like, Apostle, I don't see nothing. I got turned down at the apartment complex. How can you feed your faith by action? I need somebody to type that question in. How can I feed my faith? By action. What can I do, right, to back up my decrees and declares? What can I do to back up my belief in whatever it is that God has spoken? Let's just say you believe in God for apartment or home ownership, right? Faith for you might look like, especially if you're faced with a lot of opposition and you keep getting those, faith for you might look like window shopping, depending on like what your finances are. Faith for you might actually look like, if you have some finances, you going out and buying small things that make you believe that it's about to be done. You may say, Apostle, okay, I'm believing God for a car. All right, well, feeding your faith, for me, it looks like writing the vision, making it plain. It looks like me not getting annoyed, because it can be annoying, right? It can be so annoying to like be searching for what you feel is a needle in the haystack, right? But faith for me looks like not getting annoyed when I'm looking, but having joy. Speaking it out of my mouth, no matter how impossible it seems, speaking it out of my mouth. God responds to faith. How many people know that? God responds to faith. Whew. I don't know if y'all I don't know if y'all feel the peace that's lingering over this broadcast. I came in here with an entirely different message. How many people know God responds? I only got 2 people out of these 8 people, however many, that know that God responds to faith. So even for you, Kanima, even for whoever is on here, think about that thing, right? That it seems like it won't budge, and ask yourself tonight. I want y'all to specifically do something tonight, even if you're looking online for stuff for your apartment, even if you're looking online for cars, right? Whatever, even if you got to write out the decrees and declares, listen, put it on a sticky note, put it on your mirror so that you have no choice but to like see it wherever it is that you look. God responds to faith. The thing that trips a lot of us up is God doesn't respond sometimes how or when we want him to. And so our faith starts wavering. Can I just flow on tonight? Can I just flow on tonight? I don't know how long I'm going to be on here, but I just had to sit down and, just let God do what he needed to do. God responds to faith. But again, a lot of times our faith wavers because, we'll make a move of faith. And a lot of times why we don't see action is because we still like somewhat doubt, right? Some of us, even though we don't want to admit it, some of us still have that I hope so. I hope it works out. I hope you do it, God. I hope. And when we say I hope so, when God is speaking a word over us, it expresses doubt. It really does. And so some of us have not seen movement, and myself included to a certain degree, because God is like, I'm just waiting on you. Like I see what you're doing, but I also sees the fear behind it, right? But when you get to that place where you just know that God is going to do that thing, when you get to that place where it don't matter what the enemy does, you still in full belief that it's already done, man, then you'll see God do it. That's for somebody. Then you will see God do it. Even though some of y'all, this is for you, Mike, even though, it's for somebody else too. Even though some of y'all proclaim freedom, you really don't believe it. Today has been a test for you, Micah. Whew. Today's been a test, brother. It's been a test. God has been seeing how you respond to things. He's been seeing, will you apply what's been told when warfare comes your way? I got your messages. God told me not to respond. He says it was a day where you wavered out of your faith. You forgot all the lessons that God taught you. You forgot all the wise counsel that God gave you. You forgot it. And you did not trust that mentally you would be free. So it was a day where you felt tormented. And believe it or not, he ain't the only person that has happened to. Some of y'all, some of us, because I've been in this, so I gotta say us, because I've been here too. We learn all of what we need in the process. God teaches us, he's molding us, he's showing us how to respond to certain things. And then it's like when the storm comes, when the test comes, because not only does the enemy test, to see, and honestly, let's break it down. God uses the enemy to test our faith. I said what I said. Because if you really think about it, the enemy cannot come in unless God allows, unless God gives the okay, right? So when we break that concept all the way down, what's really taking place when we receive a word of faith, when we decree and declare out of our mouth, when we express our faith, when we tell God that we can be trusted, when we tell God that we're ready for more, is God gives the enemy the okay to come in and test the validity of whether or not we really believe. And a lot of times, when we're not ready, what happens is the testing comes, and then we forget all about the strategies God has given us to fight certain battles, because everybody's battle is different. We forget it all. We forget the script. We forget to apply scripture. It's like we allow fear to come back in. We allow negativity to come back in. We allow that depression to come back. We allow that anxiety to come back. But by that time, we've already failed the test. So what happens is God looks at us and he says, okay, you need to be prepared a little bit more. And honestly, sometimes it looks like a cycle. Blessings to you, Stephanie. Honestly, sometimes it feels like a cycle. Okay, God, I done been through this. I don't know why he got me talking about this. I done been through this X amount of times. I done been in this process, X amount of months. But the real question that we should be asking is, have I been passing these tests? Or do I keep responding the same way? Y'all don't want to talk back to me tonight. That's okay. The real question to ask is, instead of getting impatient, instead of getting frustrated, instead of falling out of faith, instead of, believing the lies, the real question that we should be asking is, if I'm still going through the same thing, this same cycle, okay, God, if I keep having the same thing, with circling this promise, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a car, like, what am I not doing, God? What have I not grasped yet? Right? And I think for many people here that struggle with different cycles, whether it's a cycle of fear, whether it's a cycle of anxiety, whether it's whatever the cycle is, you need to be asking yourself, have I been passing all the tests? And once you get to a place where you can receive the answer from God, whether it's him telling you you passed or you fail. And here's the thing, you really don't have to ask God if you pass the test, because the fruit shows. Because you find yourself, if you pass a test, you don't revisit the same thing again. You won't have to revisit the same thing again. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? So that right there, if you're wondering, like, did I pass the test, God? You failed. And that's just as clear as if you have to ask, you probably did. You probably didn't pass it. If you gotta sit and think about it and try to try to make yourself believe that you passed the test, like, facts, you probably didn't pass it. Because when you pass the test, the door opens. When you pass the test, the blessings come. When you pass the test, right? Things shift. But for many of us, you find yourself at what seems to be like a stalemate, where it's like, God, I can only get so far. I know what you promised me. I'm circling this promise. I'm believing you, but I keep running into the same issue, whether it's the same issue with people. And a lot of times, God is using those opportunities to teach us things, to mature us, but also to test us to see, like, are you really ready? Is this helping anybody? But on tonight, God wants me to ask the question, what does faith look like? What did it look like for you? What does it look like? What does it look like? How can you express your faith by action? Okay, you believe in God for, like, you know, overflow, like in your business. Like, show him. Show him that you can handle the workload of overflow. Whether that looks like you staying up super late at night working on what you need to work on, whether it looks like you committing to staying up late and getting up early to do what you need to do, show him. Maybe you say, Apostle, I'm believing God for a car, living arrangements. Spend some time in prayer tonight and say, God, how can I express my faith through action? What can I do that'll encourage me to have more faith? What can I do? I'm sure, like, some people, like, on the Periscope days when people would see me believing God for rent, and some days the rent money would come at, like, on the fifth day, on the very last day. And, some people would, think that something like cleaning was insignificant. But for me, it was very significant because it was like me making my mark that I'm not leaving this apartment. You have no choice but to pay this rent, God. Right? And really what I was doing was, I was, you got to be more specific, because just keep going is not specific. Just keep going can mean keep operating in dysfunction, and this ain't for you, it's just in general. Just keep going can, look like you still, continuing in that depressive state, you continuing to be anxious. And so what I'm getting at is I was very specific about what I was doing. Sure, I could have, fell out of faith and just started, going to get moving boxes, packing my stuff up, preparing to leave. But I chose to believe. I chose to make a move that solidified my belief that God was going to show up and show out every single month. Hasn't He done that for me? Even before, like, I got the car I have now, I never shared this part of like the journey. But like the first time I drove the car, um, and I thought I was gonna get it like back in like March. I thought I was gonna get the car back in March, and it didn't go through. Like, I actually like cleaned my entire car up. Like, I put everything in a garbage bag, like all like the mail. It wasn't a lot. I guess it kind of was a lot. Took all the air fresheners out the car. Y'all, I cleaned up that car. Everything was in a bag, and it was like a little small bag, but everything was in a bag. And I felt a little bit disappointed. I felt like, God, this was for nothing. How many people have ever felt that way? I felt like it was for nothing because it didn't happen when I wanted it to happen. But guess what? 2 months later, and here's the thing: even after I did not get that car, all the stuff, I never unpacked that bag, y'all. I still hadn't unpacked that bag, and I'm just being real. I still haven't. It still has different paperwork and stuff like that, and it's really just papers. It's still in that bag. I never unpacked it. I just left it where it was at. It's gonna be in the back seat, and it's just gonna stay there. It's just going to stay there. But like, do you not know that, like, I didn't realize that it was faith. It was me, like, it was an unconscious faith move. It was an unconscious faith move that said, God, you not listen, God, this car is gonna get traded in. I didn't even realize that I was until now that was an unconscious faith move. It was me saying, God, I receive a new vehicle, but I also receive that this vehicle will be traded in, and it's not gonna quit on me. And I'm gonna be real. For a while, it looked like that car was gonna quit on me before I traded it in. Them 2 months were hell. Fix the issue, and then it started right back up. Can't drive even down the block without the car. I couldn't drive nowhere without having to pop the hood everywhere I go, stopping every so often just to put engine coolant in the car. But that bag was still packed. There were some days I would look at that bag and like, man, why did I even pack that bag? I used to think that. Why? I just need to just go ahead and just, but I never got around to unpacking the bag. But 2 months later, 2 months later, 2 months later, I need somebody to type that in. 2 months later, and honestly, if I can be real, God was waiting for me to get to a place of faith, because I really didn't have the faith that, God, I can pay this car. No, I ain't had the faith. I ain't had the faith. I'm being real. I didn't have the faith. 2 months later, the same car I drove 2 months prior, guess what? I got it. Guess what? What God's word came to pass. I didn't even have to worry about cleaning out the car. All I literally had was that bag and stuff in my trunk, battery cables and stuff like that. Right? And I believe honestly that, like, it was that move of faith that literally just kept a little bit of belief in my heart that God was gonna do it. I had gotten turned down. The bank had told me no. The bank that financed the old vehicle had told me no. Everybody was telling me no. And I felt stuck. But that bag remained packed. It was a faith move. Although it was unconscious, I didn't even realize what it was. It was a faith move of me saying, God, I'm solidifying my belief that this vehicle is not going to quit on me, and that I'm going to trade it in and get a new vehicle. And 2 months later, guess what? I did get the new vehicle, the exact one that I drove. So again, how can you express your actions your faith by action tonight. Some of y'all not doing enough to feed your faith. You get on these broadcasts, it's not enough to fuel your faith for your journey, for what you believe in God for. I said what I said. Y'all been on here receiving words, you know, receiving, it helps, but it's not enough to sustain your faith. Because Apostle T not broadcasting all day. Some days I broadcast multiple times, right? But there comes a point after the broadcast, after you receive the word, where now you have to sit in what you really believe. And I think a lot of times what we don't see is that, like, how we operate throughout the day, once we received a word from God, once we received a promise that God has made us, like, it shows, like, whether or not we truly believe. Some of y'all will tell God all day long, God, I believe you're going to bless my finances. And you be like pumped up, full of faith. And then as you go throughout the day, your mind is worrying about bills. Your mind is just roaming a million miles an hour about what you don't have. So tonight, what can you do? God is responding this week. He's responding. He's doing things this week. All day I've been seeing God do things for me. But I've only been able to see it not just because I've been obedient, but because I've been in full faith. Like, I've been like wholeheartedly believing, like, God, you finna do it. And I have not been focused on what he gonna do, when he gonna do it. I just been like, you're doing it this week. Whatever it is for me, it's gonna get done this week, Albert. It is going to get done this week. But I've also been fueling my faith, my belief in that, by how I've been operating today. Haven't been worried. I haven't been allowing, the enemy to come in. I've just literally been in a place where my movement has just solidified. God, I believe you about to bless me. I believe it's about to happen. And literally after I came home from the gym, I was walking Capone, had to take him out to use the bathroom. My neighbor, he stops me, and it was like he answered the prayer. My dogs pull, they run. And I didn't know he'd been living here since before me. We sat and we talked for about an hour. He showed me how to get them not to pull on a leash. It was an answered prayer, right? It was also a silent prayer, but it was an answered prayer. And I believe that, like, when your faith gets all the way intact, you begin to, like, see God do things, like that. It's like you pray about it, and I wasn't harping on it. I wasn't worrying about it. That's also another place where some of y'all go wrong. You keep praying for the same thing. And God is saying, I heard you the first time, but can you just move on from this? Can you just move on? Some of y'all refuse. See, sometimes faith looks like you just going throughout your day, not letting your mind wonder about that bill that you done already prayed for 15 million times, not letting your mind wonder about how God is going to bless you. Just be receptive. And that's literally all I've been doing all day, really every day. I just, whatever prayer I pray, and I move on about my day. I don't sit there and, I always tell y'all a watch prayer never gets answered. Some of y'all are sitting right there watching these prayers, or you're trying to make God answer a specific prayer a specific way. And for some of y'all, it's blocking you from truly receiving what God has for you. Some of y'all are not receptive to what God wants because you've already made up your mind what you want. And honestly, this prayer was probably a silent prayer a few months ago. Really before then, if I can be real, I've been wanting to know, how do I stop my dogs from pulling? I'd be so annoyed in the mornings when I just wake up and Capone use the bathroom and he be wanting to run wild, he be yanking me. You know, but just like that, I learned how to get him and Bella. Now I didn't take Sweetie. I don't think Sweetie really needed, but I learned the trick with him and Bella, and it worked. For years, I've been wanting to get Bella to stop pulling. That's why I just let her off the leash. I just let her run wild because I don't have time. I don't have time for homegirl. I don't have time for her. I don't have time for her. He told, I kid y'all not. And he didn't. This guy didn't just answer one prayer. We talked. We sat and talked for a while. Told him, I just learned how to shoot. He said, I used to teach. I wanted private lessons, but I wasn't finna pay no $150 for no private lessons. And I wasn't finna do that. $150 an hour. I'm not paying you that much to teach me how to shoot. It's not gonna happen. I don't care how important this is to you. It ain't that important to me. He said, I used to actually teach, women specifically how to safely use firearms. He said, you got my number now. Whenever you want to learn, listen, we can go to the shooting range. He said, I can teach you how to shoot I wanted to learn how to shoot everything, besides just the pistol. I want to learn how to shoot a shotgun and different things like that. He said, yeah, I listen, we can go whenever you're ready. But I've been coming into a place where I've been seeing God do that because of faith. I just believe that God, okay, you heard me the first time. So let me just move. Let me just, not sit here and be worried about the same thing, not complain. And for the things that, I need right now, right? And I know I know there's opposition or the enemy is fighting me. God, let me just express my faith by my actions. So that I can stay in full faith, let me just express my faith by actions. I don't know who this was for on tonight. But it's time for you to start showing God that you trust him. Your words are not enough anymore. Whew. Your words are not enough anymore. Your words are not enough anymore. You've been saying that you trust God. You've been saying it. You've been saying it. And what God is saying is, show me. Make a move that feeds your faith tonight. Make a move that feeds your faith, your faith tomorrow, the rest of this week. If you know that you've been that one that keep praying the same prayer every single day, God, do this same prayer every single day. How about, you express your faith in action by actually not praying that prayer anymore and just, moving throughout your day, handling whatever else you need to handle, focusing on whatever else God needs you to focus on. Maybe you just been a person that's just been saying, God, I got faith, and then you've been failing the test. Start responding differently. Start responding. Whew. Differently. 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 And that's the broadcast tonight. That's the broadcast. For some of y'all, you're going to be tempted to go straight to sleep once you hear this word. But I want to challenge you that instead of sleeping on this word and letting tomorrow be the same thing that today was, or the same thing that last week, the same thing that last year was, how about you actually sacrifice some time in God's presence tonight? How about you actually sacrifice just a little bit it don't have to be much, a little bit of your time to do something to feed your faith? Because guess what? For some of us, we've been operating in pure insanity. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different response from God. He said, I need to say that again. Some of y'all have been operating, some of us, I'm going to say us because I've been there too. Some of us have been operating from a place of insanity, doing the same thing. and expecting a different result from God. And God is saying, show me something different tonight. Show me something different, because guess what? When you show God something different, you get a different response from heaven. When you show God something different, you get a different response from heaven. That's the broadcast. If you can receive it, will you just simply tell God, thank you? Whew. If you can receive it, will you just simply tell God, thank you? Tell him thank you. Tell him thank you. That's it. There are some of y'all that need to sow. Do what God leads tonight. Some of y'all need to sow seed into this word. Some of y'all may not feel led to. Some of you guys may not be able to sow financially. But even in the event that you're not able to sow financially, you can sow other ways. You can sow in prayer. And now that ain't for everybody, because some of y'all will use, me saying that or God saying that through me. You will use that as an excuse not to sow financially when you know that's what God wants. But for those that are not, sow in prayer. Costs nothing to lift your leader up. It costs nothing to speak blessings over you. It costs nothing to do that. Nothing. Thank you for that award, Miss Allen. And so that's it. You may feel led to give awards on here as your way of sowing. You can do that too. You just have to let God lead you. Every award that you guys give broadcasters on here, it counts as a seed. It counts as a seed. So if you sow $1 worth of awards on here, guess what? The broadcaster gets $1, gets that dollar. And honestly, there's really no excuse not to sow on this app. I don't know why God made me say that. There's really no, it's really because HAPS gives you coins every time you log into the app. God says I need to say that again. HAPS gives you coins that you can award broadcasters every day that you open the app. Not every time, but every day. Every day. So it's no excuse for some of y'all not to sow on tonight, because you know that this was your word. But in the event that you do feel led to sow financially, you guys can sow. You can sow via paypal.me/thoughtsbyt, or you can sow via $, thoughtsbyt. And that's it, y'all. That is it. I don't have a label. You label it whatever you feel led to label this. You give it whatever assignment you feel led to give it. But I just had for the free 99 too. Absolutely. So I just had to just be obedient to what God was telling me. I love y'all. I am rooting for y'all. And so till next time, y'all. Peace.